You spent so much time focused on what is the perfect relic I can pick, you didn't stop to think, what is the second best relic I can grab? Alright, let's not waste any time on this. This relic is called Reloaded and it lets you pick another relic from a previous tier. And that's it. Okay, thanks, bye. I got you. I'm just kidding. Hold on. I do think on the surface it does seem that simple, but I actually have a lot of questions. First off, looking at the graphic, is this the official tier order confirmed now? At least so far, like up to 4.5, I guess. We already had tier 1 shown, utilities now at 2 and teleports at 3. I mean, it makes sense. This is kind of what I was thinking. I don't want to say I told you so, but I thought there was no way Banker's Note was going to be at tier 2 again. Which of these relics should you pick? What tier should you dive into again? Well, let's look at these categories and which of them gave you a hard time? Which of them did you have 2 picks that were super close and you had a runner-up? Maybe pick the runner-up. I personally was torn between mining and fishing, thieving, and herblore. Now I'm free to pick which one of these that I didn't choose. Or another way to look at this is my favorite combo you could do with this is you could pick agility and thieving and you'll get trickster back. If you felt like the passive agility was maybe not the most optimal, you feel like you should be getting more out of your relic, like you're playing, I want to play the game, let's do something big with it. Or I think a lot of people kind of feel pressured into doing all these things that they don't think is fun. Well, here's your formal invitation from me to have some fun with this temporary game mode. A lot of people don't like agility. I don't think corner cutter is the strongest relic in the utility category, but now you're free to pick it. No guilt. If you don't like agility, just get the boots. But don't forget, Reloaded it does have competition, and that is Golden God and a mysterious third relic. For a minute, I really was thinking Golden God was gonna be competing with a Slayer and something to do with clue scrolls, so I'm really not sure what this one could be now. I do totally understand them not doing clue scroll relic with all the changes that they made to clues and adding the clue compass. That would be kind of insane. So let's take a look at Golden God. Should you really give up on this relic? So firstly, let's assume that this is actually going to be in the tier 4 category. I think while you're playing the game, whenever you get anywhere from tier 3 to 4 to 5 is when you're going to start running out of some of those free, easy, passive tasks. The easy tasks like walk here, or the medium tasks like do this minigame for a little while. You'll need to start actually spending some money and actually getting some levels up and things. You gotta be a little more intentional. And I've heard that having infinite money and passive magic XP can actually be pretty good for that. But what else can it do? Well, let's take a look at buy or sell from last year. Now, making money was probably pretty obvious, but did you know you can make other kinds of money? That's right, if you want to buy a bunch of runes, you can then go to Karamja and sell those runes to get some Tokkul, and that can be used to buy a ton of stuff, which will be later down in the page. Well, golly gee, what else can money do for you, Mason? Well, let me tell you, food. You can buy swordfish and cooked Karambwans in Brimhaven, and as Garnia, if you have the Warriors Guild, you can buy potatoes with cheese, which heals 16 hit points, by the way. Karambwans are only 18. I know a lot of people are not eating potatoes with cheese, but just because you're not familiar with them doesn't mean they're not good. They're still very, very good. Now, this league, thankfully, with the new combat mastery passives, you aren't going to need a ton of ammunition or runes for combat, but there's still a lot of shops that you might want to pick that stuff up. There are some good skilling methods that use runes and actually get rid of them. You're not going to save them with the passive. Buying anti-poisons is going to be really nice, especially since a lot of people are not going to be picking Cantor in this league. But it's not that big of a deal. You probably don't have to stock up on a billion of them. But the Warriors Guild sells attack, strength, and defense potions, which that is actually going to be a very big deal. You probably want to keep those on you at all times if you can. Here's a fun one. Fire sale does not apply to non-shop expenses, such as making planks or paying for a servant. Well, guess what? Golden God does. That is raw money, straight up gold going into people's hands. So you can take care of that without any trouble at all. And this is one of the fun little magic rune construction skilling things I was talking about. Making elemental balance spaces was so good last year. I took fire sale, I went from Nick, and I was itching to use some of those special stonemason supplies, and I couldn't, so I had to use oak planks, and it sucked. And then I realized you could make elemental balance spaces, and I just blasted through that, and then immediately got into Keldagram and bought some of the really good stuff. It was a time. I definitely recommend it if you're picking Frimnick, which probably has the best Echo boss drop, so you might be picking it. Also, Varlamore now has a Stone Mason, which doesn't say on this because Varlamore wasn't out, but I'm letting you know, if you're picking Varlamore, you really might want to consider Golden God. This is kind of starting to touch on that agility thing I was talking about earlier, like, oh, do I really want to sit and do laps? Oh, do you really want to sit and build mahogany tables over and over and over? Or do you want to build some crazy stuff that you can't do in the main game and have it take a fraction of the time? Do you want to make some gold sinks for XP? Like, that is crazy. Another method that I didn't personally use last year, but I would definitely consider it this year, is bagged plants can be bought, and whenever you put them in your house, it gives you farming and construction XP, and it scales. It keeps going. It goes from level 1 to 80, so you can just really go through those things and get both of those skills up really quickly. Now, we talked about food earlier, but that didn't come with XP. This is raw food that you can go ahead and actually get a bunch of levels from. You can buy raw Karambans. You can buy, actually, instead of listing it off, I'm just going to show you Frankie's shop. So if you pick Karind, you can basically buy whatever fish you want here raw and just get a billion cooking XP whenever you want. You are set on cooking if you pick Karind. Some of the other regions do have some decent offerings as well. It's not just Karind. And then for crafting, everyone has the ability to go to Tazar and buy a bunch of sapphires and emeralds and even diamonds. But it might actually be faster, since you don't have to convert gold to Takul, to go to a trader crew member and buy sand and soda ash and make that into molten glass for XP, and then blow the glass into stuff. And also, you can't break it. With gems, you can shatter them. And then Fremnik has some weird stuff where you can get some yak hides, but that's we're going into a bit of a rabbit hole with that one. Now, we did already cover farming a little bit with the also construction method, but you can of course go to places and buy seeds to be able to use them for farming. Fletching can be really fast with a few different methods. If you have Asgarnia or Karind, there are arrow tips that you can buy and you can make your own arrows. That's really good. Any place that has a Slayer Master, you can also make broad arrows and broad bolts, which is going to be really fast. And then of course, if you're already crafting some gems, you might want to get some bolt tips and attach them and get some XP from that as well. Herblore is not going to be anything too crazy. There are a few different secondaries that you're going to want to buy from some different shops scattered all over the place. But for the most part, you are still going to actually have to do a lot of work with Herblore. For magic, you can get whatever runes you want for whatever you want. Any kind of training method you want to do with magic, if you want to just teleport in place, or if you just want to have high outgoing passively, you're gonna need some runes for that, and you probably want some money to buy the runes. Range training is of course going to be very good and easy with all that ammunition that we talked about before. There is also the fun little bonus of going and buying the weird little Tazar weaponry, some obsidian throwing ring. And then last, but maybe not actually the last thing, there may have been some things that I missed, but last on this list is smithing. And there's a bunch of places that you can go and get smithing stuff. There's places that sell bronze bars for early smithing training. There's a lot of different places that you can get ore from, Fremnik and Karamja. And then desert is crazy because there's so many places you can just go and buy a ton of armor from and then throw that into Giant's Foundry or weapons or whatever. It just needs to be made out of metal and you can melt it down and get a billion smithing XP. So if you're picking desert, this thing is going to go crazy. Now, which of these two relics should you pick? Me personally, I'm still kind of leaning towards Golden God just because it covers so many different things and it's just kind of fun. It's fun being able to have infinite money and do all these weird training methods that you probably wouldn't be doing otherwise. Whereas picking up an additional relic in the other tiers, it does definitely open up some methods that you couldn't do before, especially depending on what you already thought was going to be your primary relic in that spot. But honestly, I feel like I did a really good job picking out my relics so far. Now, by the time I'm playing and I actually get to tier 4, I very well may go, oh my gosh, I did mess up. You know, like the video said, oh no, this relic's useless now. I'm halfway through the game and I'm not getting anything out of this anymore. So it is a very good pocket pick. It's a nice get out of jail free card. But we are forgetting one thing. Where is the other relic? What is this going to be? How do we fill out tier 4? Well, I'm going to give a shout out to 3 relics that I think had the potential to show up. 2 of them I already mentioned, and 1 is a secret bonus one. Last year's Tier 5 had Bloodthirsty, Infernal Gathering, and Treasure Seeker. Infernal Gathering already kinda overlaps with our Tier 1s, giving the special tools, being able to have an axe, pickaxe, or harpoon. But the other 2 haven't really been touched on that much. Bloodthirsty is the Slayer Relic. There's a lot of bonuses you get from this that were really good, like being able to get superiors more often, and also having a crazy superior spawn that gives a ton of extra drops. And then Treasure Seeker made it where you were getting clue scrolls a lot more often. They had the maximum amount of reward rolls, and on top of that, there's a chance for a bonus casket from that. So all these did a tremendous amount of work. Now, because of the matchup here, I actually am kind of leaning away from Bloodthirsty coming back. Same with Treasure Seeker, but there's a third secret relic that is not shown here at all that I want to talk about. There's still a lot of pieces from Production Prodigy that have not been filled in by the other relics. Like the Tier 1 and Tier 2s have a lot of pieces from these Tier 1s of last year, Endless Harvest, Production Prodigy, and Trickster, but there's still things like making cannonballs, or spinning flax, or making jewelry, fletching logs, things that kind of go along with some of your other skills, but there's still things that aren't being automatically completed. So I could see some pieces of this being thrown into something else, but honestly, I feel like that's still kind of a weak thing. So really what I think is this next tier is just gonna be something completely different is really my guess. Really, the only thing I can think of is if we go back to the original Trailblazer League, Skilling Prodigy gave a permanent 12 boost to all non-combat skills, but like, I don't know that that's a tier 4. So just some kind of production boosting kind of thing is the only thing that I can see really filling in some of these gaps that they have in between tier 1 and tier 2, but I feel like they might be doing something more. Hopefully I'm not getting my hopes up here, but I think something completely different might be in the cards for this last relic. And I also really hope that you would subscribe to the channel. I am doing daily leagues videos. We're talking about all the newest stuff coming out from Jagex or not. And I would love for you to be part of the conversation. Which of the 2 relics do you guys think that you're picking? And if you're picking Reloaded, what are you double dipping on? Thank you so much for watching this video. And until the next one, take care. Goodbye.